sorry, I forgot. Ooh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Dana and Jack. Welcome. Good to see you. Let's see. We still have 2 minutes, so I can just chit chat with you for a second. I wanted to say I'm so sorry I missed you. I've been meaning to text you. The weekend that you guys were up here, I am super bummed that I didn't even get to meet with you or catch up with you at all. But I know you already knew that it was a crazy week and weekend. So I hope you had a blast, and I hope I get to see you definitely when I'm on my way to the East Coast. So that's our personal combo aside. Anyway, all right. So it's 10:59. We're getting ready for our Imperfection Collection, day number 2. I'm super excited about this collection and about the upcoming things that I have to offer. Yay. Thank you, Dana. I knew that you already knew. Now I'm switching back. I knew that you already knew about the weekend, and so I didn't sweat it too much, but I'm definitely going to look you up and, contact you before we head out to the East Coast. All right, so now it's 11 and we will begin. Of course, again, just reminding you that it's the Imperfection Collection that we are launching this week. What we're doing a little bit different from our other launches is that we are showing it one day at a time for the next, it's going to be for 5 days, but today is day 2. And then we will release the collection and my new online class that is based on this book, Love for Imperfect Things by Heyman Sunim. I hope that you get a chance to pick a copy of this up and definitely read it. It's a real easy read, but it is just lovely and touching, and it has inspired me so much. So it helped to inspire this collection of rubber stamps, believe it or not. There was a combination of things that really inspired this collection. 1 was the book, Love for Imperfect Things. 2 was watercolor month, where we did splashing our stamp every day for a month. And that really got my creative ticker talking. And then also, I think just that I wanted to play with a different way of mark making. So all of these rubber stamps are made instead of drawing them or, designing on my iPad, which normally I do hand draw all my stamps, but sometimes, and especially for my stencils, I use my iPad to design. So this was a little bit different because I actually painted all these designs using this brush and black watercolor paint. So I just painted all these lines, and then I chose the ones that called to me the most. And I will go ahead and show you the entire collection. Again, this is not available just yet. We are going to release everything on Friday after you've had a chance to see all the collection and to sort of see how the pieces and components work together. And then I'm also going to be releasing signups for my imperfect journaling class. So it will sort of all go together, although please do not think that you need to have these stamps for the class. You really don't. I mean, it'll be nice to at least have some of them, but you can definitely sign up for the class without even having these stamps. Okay, so yesterday we went over and I shared with you set number 1, and this set is called Bold Impressions, and this is the artwork that was made live. And I don't know if I got a chance to actually show you a couple of the other pieces. This was sort of a sample that I had pre-done, and so of course this was just the second one was sort of a knockoff of my first one. And I also did this piece. And then I also did this. Now this has some different stamps in it though from some of the other collections, I believe. No. Well, it does. It has the Spark Joy, which is on a different collection. But again, very abstracted, but so fun. I mean, if you just really want to grab your watercolor paper and your watercolor paints and just play, it is so relaxing and just sort of a really, well, an imperfect journey. That's really what it is. Um, so I have a couple other pieces here. And again, a couple of these are using some different stamps. It's really going to be fun on the last day when I can incorporate all of them together. But right now, I really am just focusing on one set at a time. So let me stop and say good morning. Of course, I already did chat with Dana and Jack. Good morning again, though. And Nancy, good to see you. I'm so happy that YouTube is working out better for you. It's nice to have you here with us. Jan, yes, I hope you have your art tea with me, KP. And I forgot to say good morning to everyone. It's me, KP. I'm here in my studio, the Moon and the Maker, home of RubberMoon art stamps. I forgot that part. Now I can get back on track. And Christy and Deborah and Phyllis, good morning. So anyway, this was set number 1, and we went over that. And of course, made something fun. I can't wait to see what you make when you get your hands on these. And this is set number 2. It's called Wings and Things. And again, these definitely look like butterfly wings, but I want you to know that I did not design them in that way. That's actually when I painted them, they were painted this way, just like this. So, but then of course I saw wings or petals, and that's what they're called. They're called imperfect wing petals, small and large, although they are not the same. They're a little bit different. So it's not like I just painted one and then shrunk it down. So they can also work together, I think, in a kind of a fun way. And then we have these, I call them leaves, but they're really so much more. This is sort of a mark making thing, or like a pattern that I have loved for a long time. If you look back in some of my artwork from years and years ago, these same types of leaves or teardrops or whatever you want to call them have shown up in my work many times. This one I called an imperfect bug leaf because I see it sort of as a leaf and I see it as a flying bug, but I also see it as and again, forgive me, I don't know all the parts of the flowers. I really should look it up, but you know, the part where the bud comes out from. So I see it as that. Jan, what's that called? You probably know. Hi, Puffer. I hope you're doing well. And Becky and Alba, good morning. And Edie. All right, so this I called imperfect gulls because they do look like seagulls in the background. Although, again, I could easily foresee these being little, the same, yeah, sepals. Am I saying it right? Sepals. Janice knew, but now I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, it looks like the sepals, and these could be little sepals too, or peoples. No, I'm kidding. I'm just being silly now. And this is called imperfect bean. I don't know why we called it a bean, but it could be an eyeball, it could be a bumblebee, and it definitely could be a leaf. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, no, let me backtrack again, because I do that. I get ahead of myself. I want to go ahead and show you the next upcoming sets of what we have to look forward to. This is definitely a favorite, and this is called What Goes Around. And, you know, again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on this set. They're between 8 and 10 images on a collection, I think. Maxie named it Imperfect Bean on that other one. Anyway, this one is called The Brilliant Brush Strokes. Oh, did I miss one? I did. This is number 4, Lines and Vines. And again, of course, you're seeing lots of florally things, but you're going to be amazed at how many different things that we can get out of these sets. So I'm super excited. And then finally, last but not least, one of my favorite collections, I think, Brilliant Brush Strokes. So looking forward to every day. I'm just trying to tease you so you make sure to come back, but we are going to be working with wings and things today, okay? And again, it is called the Imperfection Collection because I know that for rubber stamping, and I am guilty of this myself, for years, I would stamp something, and if it wasn't a perfectly crisp, you know, perfectly crisp stamped image, then I was not happy because a lot of times I was stamping, and especially if you have, a little detail image. Let me see if I have something on my table to show you. I don't even think I have very much to show. Oh, yes. Okay. So something like this. Okay. Obviously, you want a lot of detail probably with that. If you're going to stamp it and color it in, you want it to be perfect. Okay. So, but with these, I really wanted to come up with something where we did not have to strive for perfection. Where it could be loose and messy and just we could have fun with it. Wouldn't this just make a gorgeous background for a card? I mean, it would make gorgeous framed art. It would make a great journal page. So we're going to just play and have fun, and we are going to be loose and imperfect. So here I have used my imperfect leaf number 1. And then I have a couple other samples here just to show you. We're just going to play a little bit today. These are the imperfect bird, and I did it a couple different ways. Super fun again, and I'm going to show you how I did this for sure. Both of them are pretty quick. Here I did attempt a butterfly. It's not my best work, but it was really, really fun to experiment. And I did use, I have to tell you, a few pieces from some of the other collections. So I won't do this piece for you because I'm really being stringent about sticking within the collection. But, again, on our final day, when I can incorporate all of them, we can do something like this. And I'll definitely show you how I put together a butterfly. Super fun. And now this is a little work in progress. And here you can see this is one of the imperfect wing petals, small. And then here again is that little imperfect bug leaf. And then, of course, I cheated and used a couple other pieces from another set, but that could easily be done with the bean, which maybe we'll do that with the bean today. And then, of course, this is the bean and the imperfect bug leaf. Again, this is not done, but you can kind of see where I'm going with it. So I'm going to stop for just a minute and read some of the comments just so I can kind of keep up. And Maxie says she sees a bean, and they're all talking about Maxie's name. So yes, Sandy Puffer says, what are you stamping with, or are you using paint on the stamp? Yes, I am using paint on the stamp, just like I have been. And not to say that I am. Okay, let me back up again. I am going to be using these stamps with some ink and also with some high flow acrylic. So right now we're still focusing on the watercolor, but don't worry, you can definitely use your ink pads. Of course, your Moonlight Duos are highly recommended. Let me pull out a different one. That one's not that easy to see, but Moonlight Duos work, of course, fantastic with these stamps. Any ink pad that you have that you like, of course, but then they'll also work with your paints and on your gel press and all that stuff. Right now, we're mostly just focusing on the watercolor because, that's sort of what I've been doing and what really inspired me to do this whole collection. And Estrella, yay! Good to see you. I've missed you so much. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I do have a few sheets, just random sizes of 140-pound watercolor paper. I again have my core watercolors both in my little set and in my tubes, just like always. I have a couple or a few acrylic mounting blocks if I need to use those for the stamps. And then I also have, of course, my acrylic, or I'm so sorry, my watercolor brushes. And for those of you who are interested in knowing, I recommend a couple different brushes. Now, you know that I have used this Princeton long round velvet touch brush for a really long time. Okay, and I've recommended it. I've loved it. I want to tell you that recently I was invited to be a silver brush demonstrator and educator. And so I did recently receive some wonderful samples of their Silver Silk 88 brushes, and I absolutely adore them. they are in the same price point, really, maybe a little bit more, but totally worth it. So I am going to be showing and sharing these brushes a lot more in the future. So anyway, brushes, and then also a flat shader brush just to apply the stamp, the paint to the stamps. Alrighty, so let's first go ahead and let's do this fun like leafy pattern. Okay, I really like it, and I'm going to do a couple other things on the side as well, just to show you the versatility. So let's go ahead and get our imperfect leaf, and of course, whichever one that you like. Edie, I think we are going to be carrying some of the brushes, but it's going to still, it will still be a little while. Actually, if you're interested in getting some of the brushes, I will list them on our Amazon affiliate link. So you could get it through there if you're in sort of a hurry. I definitely wanted to get some of the collections, you know, for November. So anyway, all right. So here I have my tribal, or I call it tribal leaf, and that's because I have a tribal leaf stencil. So it's sort of in my brain. But anyway, so imperfect leaf number 1. Oops, no, this is actually number 3. All right. So for this one, I am going to go ahead and just, I'm not going to wet my paper this time. I'm going to just take some Payne's Gray, and my brush is, you know, sort of wet. I'm going to give myself just a couple crazy lines. And again, for those of you who watched me during World Watercolor Month, you know, a lot of the times when I was painting the stamps up, I was trying to not make them too juicy. But for this, I'm going a little bit wetter. And of course, you can, you know, stamp them back and forth, meaning you can switch them around and do it that way, or you can just make it easy on yourself and not even have to flip it around. And I am not caring one bit if if the details really showing up. I sort of like that it doesn't necessarily, or that it gets a little bit blotchy, just because I feel like it makes it look not cookie cutter. And sometimes if it is not enough sort of smushing, I can go in and just do that myself. All right, so there's one side, and we'll go ahead and do the other. And of course, don't forget, if you wanted to do gradients, or if you wanted to put different color, like say if you were working with greens and you wanted to do a couple different of your green hues right on here, that would be really fun. And maybe I will switch it around back and forth every now and then, just to give a little different variety. And of course, again, maybe you want to switch it up and you want to do different, you know, some of the different leaves. You could do all different ones. I was just trying to make it a little easy on myself and work sort of quickly. And use a little bit of green gold. Edie said dragonfly conga line. That is so funny. Hi, Emily. And Libby, good morning. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and go in and start painting the background really quickly. And I'm, on this one, I sort of tried to be careful. Or I don't know if be careful is really the right word. I tried to not necessarily let the paint bleed into each other, but it did happen in some spots and it really didn't bother me. I like this just loose and just eclectic sort of look. Again, I don't know. Sometimes these things remind me sort of batiks or some kind of funky fabric. So I like that, and it's okay. So if it ends up bleeding together just a little bit, I'm really okay with that. And I'm working sort of with a pretty wet brush here. And you can see where there are a couple of splatters of paint kind of got on my paper as I was stamping. And so some of that will bleed a little bit together with the green gold, but again, it's okay. And you can actually, if you care and you don't want it to bleed together, then you could just work a little more slowly and deliberately, and you could actually go in and sort of outline, again, leaving some of your saved whites if that is important to you and you don't want to have things blossom together. But again, in some spots, it really just doesn't bother me. Obviously, if you had time and you were letting this dry just a bit more, then you could probably, not be quite as careful if all of your Payne's gray was completely dry. Really, I mean, I just wanted to go ahead and finish this in its entirety just to kind of show you how quick and easy and how fun if you had like a nice big journal to just do an entire page with this kind of patterning. And of course, like I said, again, any one of these leaves, and including that bean, would be good for this technique or for this, pattern. And remember too, if it runs a little bit where in a spot where you don't want that to happen, just take your clean dry paper towel and blot it a little bit. You can also get your brush nice and clean and dry and then pull color out. And that's called using your thirsty brush, making your brush thirsty to pick color back up. And voila, I just love it. So you could do something really big if you did a big piece like this and, frame this baby. I think it would make beautiful wall art. So there is that. Yes. Oh, Puff. When do you actually go in the hospital, Puff? I will definitely rush your order so you can have it there with you and still get makey when you're recuperating. All right, let's do some of these birds. Okay, I had a lot of fun with this bird technique. So let's do that. So I am going to wet my paper. Actually, I might have to do this and then take a break for a second. I'm just going to wet my paper just a little bit. Well, yeah, pretty wet. Okay, I'm going to saturate it pretty well. Okay, and I want you to know when you saturate your paper like that, it will start to buckle. As you can see, it's, I don't know if you can see it doing it now. I'll turn it on its side. You can see how that automatically starts to warp the paper. If you just turn it over and you give the back side a quick wetting down, that will sort of help. And I'm going to wet it one more time, just a little bit. And what I'm sort of waiting for, I should have maybe used a tint of color, but do you see that shine? I'm waiting for that shine to go down just a little bit. I don't want it to be 100% dry, but I just want that sheen to sort of disappear a little bit before I start stamping, okay? Because if it still has a lot of that wetness like that, then it's definitely going to bleed out. So I'm going to give it a little blowing on. I could use my blow dryer, but I don't want to dry it out that fast. I still want it to be wet, but not shiny. I hope that makes sense. So yes, I'm looking at the comments and I just want to say, Libby, Sandy is Puff or Puffer. And she is going to have a new knee, I guess Monday the 26th. I hope it goes okay, Puff. We'll be thinking about you. All right, so now most of the shine is gone. And so I'm going to get my bird stamp here. And I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, put a few different colors on here. Or maybe just a couple. I don't know. We'll do a little red. I'm just going to do a few rainbow colors, red, orange, pink. Now, you can see that this one was still much more wet there. This is starting to dry, so it was a little bit crisper, but ultimately it won't matter that much. If you want it to bleed out just a little bit more, you could always re-wet your paper, or you could spray it with a little bit of mist, a little misty water. Both those colors were kind of similar, but that's okay. And one more. And I admit, I sort of like when it bleeds out a little bit like that, but I did get some really nice images on here. So of course, if you want to, make them look a little more blossomy or flowy, you can definitely add paint back to your birds. I'm going to not do that yet though. And I'm going to go in with my Payne's Gray or really any dark color. And I'm just going to start It's still a little bit wet, but it's okay. I think I'm just going to start in. I would let this dry probably a little bit more if I was working on a journal page or something. But I'm going to go in with pretty dark opaque color, and I'm just going to, again, loosely outline. I am not trying to get perfect outlines of the birds, not only because I just don't want that. That's not the look I'm after, but also I just don't want it to necessarily look like I just stamped the same bird stamp over and over. And again, it's probably still a little bit too wet, so some of that Payne's gray is flowing into the bird where I don't necessarily want it. I would like a little bit crisper of a line around the birds. So might have to just work a little more slowly, or by the time I actually get over here, I'm sure it'll be fine. Again, using Payne's gray, but any nice dark deep color that you choose would look great. But I would recommend a darker color for this, and probably working just a little bit more opaquely. So for this Imperfection collection, really the bird, I think, is really the, besides the words, of course, I have a couple words. I have embrace your imperfections, and also, oh, what does the other one say? Goodness, my brain, it says spark joy. So other than that, there's really no other literal images in the collection. And I've honestly been thinking of other ways I could use the bird, um, but so far I haven't really experimented enough with it. I'm thinking, though, that you could do some really fun borders or things like that where it's not actually using it as a literal image of a bird. So you can see I'm gonna go ahead and go over to this one. I think it's dry enough to where it won't bleed too much, but so since it did smear out, or blossom out into the paper, you can see, and especially since I'm using this darker color and using it more opaquely, that you can easily fix that right up. And of course, you can see here as it's starting to dry, as my Payne's gray is starting to dry, the background color is not um, all consistent. Like, it has some areas that are a little bit more blotchy, a little bit, maybe even blossoms of color here. And when I say blossoms, it's really like those watermarks. So that's okay. I like that look, and I don't feel like I have to go back and, try to smooth anything out, or anything like that. But of course, if for some reason you want it to be more consistent, you can definitely go back in as your washes are wet and still manipulate, um, the coverage. And you could see some of them would still probably need I was working kind of fast, and a couple of them I may go around and just manipulate some of the edges just a little bit more to smooth them out. And if I wanted it to look a little nicer, then I could easily go back in and fill in. And like this was where I first started, and it really bled together. So of course, as it dries, I could also manipulate the outline of that. And anywhere that maybe doesn't have smooth transitions where I would want them to be a little bit better, I can still finesse with a little bit of paint and a wet brush. So it makes super fun. And then again, you could easily go back, and this is what I did with this one. So this is the same exact technique. I just stamped it in Payne's Gray. I stamped all these birds in Payne's Gray, and then I painted around in Phthalo Blue, and then I overstamped, and you can see it, it's imperfect. I overstamped imperfectly using a little bit of green gold. And again, if you wanted to still manipulate your washes or your paint, you can still go in there and move that, or even add more if you wanted to add details, or if you wanted to just still build up more color. Again, using these stamps and washes as base layers. So I'm going to stop for 1 second and just check out the comments to see if there's any questions or comments that I needed to address, but I don't see any. So yes, Jana, welcome and thank you so much. Pretty fun, and just I don't know. I love to stamp, the actual act of stamping, and then I love to manipulate them in different ways to make them not necessarily look stampy. And I also love the freedom of just moving the paint around. Let's go ahead and do a couple of these. Well, I want to work a little bit with the wing petals, okay? So I'm going to go ahead. You can do it a couple ways. If you were really wanting to make a butterfly, you could actually line them up right on your mount and stamp them together. I'm going to go ahead and just use some ink for this right now, just to show you this. Okay, it's not quite together, so you could then easily ta-da! And then of course we do have some other great stamps that could go in here to fill in the color. You could also maybe even take like your little bean stamp if you wanted to use that, to fill in, maybe using a different color. I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of watercolor just for fun and see how that works out. If you wanted to color it in that way. And then of course I would still take and manipulate that with a little bit of straight paint. Like so. The other cool thing is that if you wanted to only do the side, you could easily have a butterfly flying from the side. Ta-da! So I just want to totally encourage you to get these in your hands and play and see what you see. Of course, if you also have our stamp track set or sets, they would go beautifully with that as well, although they will have a different line quality, but I still believe that we could really play with these together in wonderful, marvelous ways. Sandy says, yes, we need a few more words, some with each group. Those are coming soon. We already had so many images. I really just didn't want to inundate. And I know so many people have wonderful words and sayings probably already in their collection that you could really mix and match. So let's do a couple more quick things, and then I will let you go and start dreaming up how you will get makey. Uh, hmm. All right. Sorry, I was reading the comments again. Okay, so let's try. Of course, I didn't show you the bigger butterfly, but it would work, of course, the same, or the bigger wing petals, but of course, it works kind of the same way. So, well, not kind of the same way. It works exactly the same way. All right, again, I'm going to, use my watercolor. I'm going to dip into a little quinacridone magenta. So you can do, let's see, I'm going to switch off and use the other, oops, oh, Butterfingers. I got a little marks up there, but it's okay. We're being imperfect, remember? Oops. Right. Get this little guy. I'm going over here to my sepal. I hope I'm saying it right. Anyway, it's actually the bug leaf, which I know is a weird name, but it reminds me of both. So we'll use our our bean. That name still cracks me up, but we're going to use the bean and some green. And I'm just going to fill in, and I'm filling in with a couple different shades of green. I really don't, I have just a couple colors squeezed out on here. I really don't like the green that much that I used originally, so I'm just sort of mushing in a couple other green colors. And it would be fun too, since that little bean stamp is sort of striped, I could easily have just filled in those little stripes with some different colors. Again, here my brush now is clean and dry. And so you can see I'll pull back up some of this color with the thirsty brush to just so it will dry a little quicker and I can start working in the paint, layering on the paints, I should say. And I want to tell you, I have some color, I have some titanium white squeezed out in my palette over here. I want to mix it with a little bit of the quinacridone magenta so I get like a nicer pink. And it's also a little more opaque, and I can go in and start filling in these little front petals. So you want to make florals, you want to make butterflies, you want to make bugs, you want to make vines. Oh, goodness. I think pretty much your imagination really is the limit when it comes to this. Of course, like I said, again, it's going to be really fun when I have a couple of my other stamps from the other collections, and I can really then begin to fill things in even more and do some other little embellishments. But like I said, right now we are really just focusing on each individual collection. So I wanted you to see how they could stand alone, or work together. And right now, I'm probably not using the best brush for this job to paint in my background. I may like to switch to a little bit bigger of a brush, but since this is what I have in my hand, this is what I'm doing. And I think this one would be really, really fun with one of the other background stamps, such as, oh goodness, I think there's a few stamps that I would love to use with this right now. I can really foresee using, oh goodness, this imperfect scribble would be amazing, or maybe my little X's and O's. And of course, this imperfect brushstroke goes great with making the butterflies. So I just want to kind of show you, how, what other ones I may use if I had them all at my disposal right now. But again, just sort of keeping things to more of a limited, set so that you can see how versatile each collection is just by themselves. So I hope that you enjoyed day number 2 of our Imperfection Collection. And here's all the pieces that we made, and how we've been here for 47 minutes. And of course, some of that time I was just gabbing, but in 47 minutes, I was able to, get 4 pieces. Not that they're completed, but they're really, definitely close. And I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. So let's see. If I have any questions, let me know. Just taking a pause to read all of the comments. And yes, so gosh, thank you all so much for being here for day number 2. Trying to think if I have anything to tell you. Oh, just for those of you who are in Moon Mail, I want to thank you so much for your patience again with us. Your Moon Mail has shipped and will be in your mailbox soon. I hope you love it. We did work really hard on it. We want to also thank Gina from GSL Cuts for her contributions always. And I want to let you know that I am going to do the Moon Mail reveal later this afternoon at 2 p.m. in the Moon Mail Club. Okay. So I'll be posting over there just to give you all a reminder. Thank you all so much again for joining me again for the Imperfection Collection. I hope that you'll continue to watch all week and be anticipating our launch. Thanks again. Mwah. Love you to the moon and back. I'll see you soon. Bye. Have a great day. Go get makey.